the Kayak Fishing Obsessed Podcast. We'll be sitting down with a fresh guest each week. Someone who shares the same kayak fishing passion that runs through our veins. We're talking kayak anglers, kayak companies, lure experts. Heck, anyone who's got a story to tell about landing the big ones from a kayak. We're setting our sights on becoming the #1 kayak fishing podcast in the world. You'll get a chuckle, a grin, and hey, maybe even a belly laugh. Because we believe in the power of humor. But above all, we're here to educate and inspire. So, whether you're a seasoned kayak angler or just dipping your toes into this exhilarating world, join us on the Kayak Fishing Obsessed Podcast. It's time to reel in adventure, camaraderie, and the joy of the catch. Here's your host, Darren Wendell.
What's up, you fish freaks? I am pumped tonight. Episode number 68 of the KFO show, brought to you by the Wendell Fishing YouTube channel. If you haven't seen it yet, 1,300 videos. I got daily shorts for you, daily community posts, weekly podcast, bi-weekly podcast right now. And I got 2 videos running a week. So I am like doubling down. It's fishing season. I am excited tonight. Our show is going to be on, and I'm bringing on Fishing with Gramps here in just a little bit. One of my favorite guests. I don't know. I just like the dude. We're friends. I haven't talked to him for a while, so I'm like just excited to catch up with him. And you get to come along for the ride. We're going to talk about how to dominate summer bass fishing, and we're going to take a deep dive on that. Where are the bass right now? What lures are making them just go crazy? And some tips and tricks along the way. Had a nice highlight, 2 highlights this past week. Hit the 40,000 subscriber mark and 9 million view mark on the Wendell Fishing channel. And so I just wanted to thank all of you who are a part of that, who are interacting with that, leaving comments, hitting the like button. You guys freaking rock. If you're not on YouTube and you're on Facebook, I got another group growing like crazy. It's called Kayak Fishing Freaks. If you're a freak show, love kayak fishing, head over there. Started 6 months ago. We're already at 14,300 members and growing. So that's a lot of fun. I'm going to skip the knucklehead update because I got Gramps on. We'll hop into that in a little bit later. Once again, remember, interactive show for those listening in live, YouTube, Instagram, Twitch, Kayak Fishing Freaks group. Ask questions. We'd love to answer those in real time. Enough of all that. JT, welcome to the show, brother. How you doing?
I am doing great, my friend. You're right. It's been way too long since we hung out and talked fishing for a bit.
He sounds like a robot to me. It sounds up with the audio. Someone else? Is it just me? It might be just me. Anybody else?
I hope not.
Got weird audio going on. If you're listening in, help us out. Do you hear that audio? Nobody's talking. Maybe it's good. Maybe it's just on my end. All right, try. He ate some Keebler elves. All right, try it again. Maybe we just need time to catch up.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I just muted during the thing.
You're
but
back.
You were fine before. Okay,
look at that. I love.
So I mute and I unmute and then it works. Okay.
I love it. It was warbled. You're back in business. All right, start that over. Gramps, welcome to the show, man.
It's been way too long.
It's been way too long. I think we haven't talked. We used to talk all the time. Summer hit. And craziest hit, and you had a rough go at it the last couple of months. I was listening to one of your shows.
I've been struggling. I'm slowly think I'm making a comeback, but yeah, fatigue. I've been working with my doc, and had some blood labs drawn and things like that too. So we're still not sure. I'm trying to eat better, sleep better, do less. I took like 6 weeks off of YouTube, just trying to focus on, I guess, getting a little bit better. And I'm slowly creeping back. I've started filming again and started doing some lives with folks. Was on with Bearded Paddler and started making some content again. But yeah, it's like I got wore out down at the national championship. I kind of never recover when I got home. And I know a lot of it's due to a lot of work stress going on, and hopefully that's going to start settling down when we get some people hired in to backfill behind me. I know what it was like, starting a new role. And then I kind of did that too, but I had to keep doing the 2 jobs I was doing prior. And I've got one person hired who is, officially starts in the first, and then the next person is up for, interviews. So eventually I should have some less work stress, and then hopefully I can work with my docs to figure out the whole fatigue thing as well. But I'm grinding through it. I'm not trying to be hard headed and just do things to make content.
Right.
I let the channel rest. I did some live streams, but we're back. We're fishing. I did what I needed to do to qualify for the KBF National Championship during Mayhem. It was close, but I kept it in the top 10 the whole time. I was able to stay on the water enough. And oddly enough, we're going to talk about some of the techniques that I kind of used to slide in post spawn. And then kind of as we slid into summer to turn around and go like back to back to back lake PBs, using a technique I kind of studied during my downtime when I said I'm going to do things different this year than I've done in the past. So yeah, we're gonna have a fun episode tonight.
Yeah, and it's good that you're doing something different because I don't know about you, because all my spots that were smashing last year, they're not there this year. They're in a different spot, and it's like crazy because for 2 years in a row, I was like, okay, I got my milk run on my favorite lakes. I'm picking them up this year. I don't know, whatever it is. They're not there and they moved. So I have to change my strategy as well. But caught my longest this past week, 21.75, which is absolute donkey town for Ohio folks. I know for you, you're listening south of the Mason-Dixon line, you're like, yeah, whatever. But north, that's a big fish. That's a big bass.
Yes, it is.
Well, I'm glad you're doing. I've been happy to see more and more content coming out of you that's communicating to me that, hey, you're getting a little more energy. And YouTube's one of those things, right? It'll punish you if you take 6 weeks off. And I know you know that. And so if I ever see your video, I'll just hit it and let it play and walk away, right? And go take lunch or something. Because I know how hard it is. It's easy to get burnout doing this type of stuff. And you don't want to create content because you have to, because that will communicate, right? Real far. He's not even passionate about it. So I tip my hat to you. Let's hop in. How to dominate summer bass fishing. I always like to start off because everyone's like, summer's tough.
Yes.
Summer is tough. The water's warm. You got your favorite spot. If you get out there in the afternoon, was probably hit up 6 or 7 times by another angler earlier that morning from guys like me who get up at 4:30 a.m. and go hit it up.
Yeah, we were talking about that. You're the early bird, and I'm kind of going afternoon, evening in the heat of the day, trying to catch that last little bit of sunlight when I get a chance. But yeah, it really makes a difference sometimes. But sometimes too, those fish if you're fishing a lake that gets pressured a lot by tournaments, that, 6 o'clock to 2 o'clock, it can get tough because those fish are beat up. Them fish know it's like, oh, it's Saturday and Sunday. I'm shutting down and I'll see you guys like at 4 o'clock until dark. And sometimes you gotta kind of do that. But I decided this year I was going to, I've always loved running the banks. Post spawn, you catch those fish coming back out of the pockets. Those that are going to go back out to their deep lurks, they're going to come out to their points. And I tell you what, towards the end of May, before they kind of went back deep again, one of my favorite baits, and when I say me, it's me and my brother, because he's literally been my science experiment. We're doing these things because he fishes pretty much every day. When you're medically retired, you do that. And because if you're retired, it's what you're supposed to do. Is go and do things you enjoy doing
the rest of your life.
I tell you what, a rage bug along the rocky banks, mimicking in these lakes for us that have bluegill in them, because one of our favorite places to fish, they've drained it twice and basically tried to kill out the shad because the shad were taken over. So the primary forage there is bluegill and crappie. So swimming these rage bugs along the bank or like flukes was killing it for us.
You swim jigging that?
Well, we'll get in a second. Texas rig, throwing it like a crankbait was the juice. A very light Texas rig bait, and kind of swimming it was the juice, like through May, and then until they started pulling off the banks and going deeper. But then it's like, okay, if you're a bank beater and you're used to, rolling along and either throwing a chatterbait along a bank or swimming, your fluke or whatever, and your fish go deep, then it's like, what do you do? Now, one of the things we ran into here for the first time is Indiana's known for spraying the lakes for grass because of all the boaters and whatnot. But normally when they do it, there's still a good chunk of the lake that has a pretty good, healthy, section of grass that you can, throw your chatterbaits over the top of, or for your like the frog freaks, dragging those and pulling those up. But I tell you what, the lake that we like to fish that's close by, there was like little to no grass. So we've
Oh,
had to
whoa. They killed it
change
all.
we've had to change everything about the way we fish this year. But doing some studying, doing some learning. I've always heard people talk about ledge fishing,
Right.
and you hear that term big from the boaters and these people with these highland reservoirs with big bluff walls and this and that.
Yep.
But even on smaller lakes, you can apply that and smash these summertime fish because they'll set off in deeper water. Now, that could be in a creek channel or river channel on a lake, and then they'll push up to flats to feed, or they're sitting there on a windblown ledge waiting for, whatever to get blown over. So you got to know what your forage in the lake is. Do they primary feed on craws, bluegill and crappie, or shad, type fish? So at some point you got to match the hatch so you know how to smash these fish. But I really focused this year on I'm going to learn how to ledge fish.
Okay.
And, it may be only 20 feet deep in our lake, but if you've got areas that push up and you have a flat that's 3 to 5 feet deep,
Yep.
those bass will push up there and smash on them a few times a day. And that's when you can be sitting there with your shallower running crankbaits, your jackhammers, even dragging a jig, things like that. But it's like when they move off of that, then how do you catch them? So this year has been like a learning curve for Jeremy and I. And once we kind of figured it out, then it became kind of a smash fest. Like a Jeremy on Catch 22. I think this is probably the first time in a while, and this early in the season, he's got like all 18s or better across the board.
Okay.
And in this lake we fish with now, until this year, nobody that I know of in a bass tournament has caught a 20-inch plus in this lake. We knew they've been growing. So a few years ago, like 17 and 18 were the big bass. And then it kind of slid to the right a little. You started seeing more 18s. And then, the big bass is a 19. And then this year, and I got to take pride on my brother. I beat him to catching the first 20 on this lake.
Was that
But it was kind of doing what we're talking about. Huh?
Was that the one you posted this last week?
Yep, just last week. So I think it was last
man.
Wednesday. We were going to go river fish, and it got blown out from the rain. So we're like, well, back to the lake. And I was like, I'm going to get back out here, and I'm going to keep working these ledges, and I'm gonna figure this stuff out. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about, and like the baits that when you're going to do this. And when one of the things when you said, what we're going to talk about tonight, especially being the kayak fishing obsessed podcast, this is primarily focused for those of you with a kayak and something as minimal as 2D sonar. So if you got your Garmin Striker 4, you got your little Helix 5, tonight is what we're going to be talking about with just those basic electronics to help you find those ledges.
Well, I like it. Now, before we hop into there, we'll get into that in just a moment. You got a new kayak, brother. You've been modding that thing out like all your videos are just modding it out and running wires and running this over here and running that over here. You got a PWR. So talk a little bit about that. You've been in it a couple times. You made the move from an old town. So give us the download there.
So up until recently, I have been running the PWR 129 in bow mount mode. So I've had the XI3, the foot steering, doing my spot lock thing, and 135 amp hour battery. So I didn't have to worry about running out of juice. And I've been doing kind of what I already knew, transitioning from the Old Town Autopilot over to the Power, but kind of sticking with something that I knew, right? So it's a little bit different. Obviously the trolling motor is a little bit farther north of the kayak. So I had to learn how to, rig it out like Gene kind of taught me to be able to pull the release and then pull the motor up. And, when I come in off the bank and all that, but the foot controls for steering, if I want to leave it straight and then do kind of like I did the Old Town and, cruise along the banks and all that too, but spot lock and everything else. So up till now, I have been fishing the way that I was fishing lakes and ponds and strip pits and things like that. But now I'm in river mode.
Okay.
So the XI3 is off. The battery's off. Now we're in a 36 volt, 60 amp with the
Ooh.
Newport Vessels NK300.
Ooh,
And
juicy.
we're
They got
starting
the
to
power,
play on
man.
the rivers. So that thing on the rivers is something else. Now, it didn't take me long. It didn't take me long to get used to using the foot control, the steering, controlling the hand throttle with the Newport and running that. And I can say this with pretty much confidence already that I'm going to be a stern mount dude from now on, because the juice, the control, the power that Newport has, oh my goodness. But I've also got the rock guard on it and the little fish or the little grass cutter, so that if I find some grass someday, that I'll be able to deal with it. But so
I get into it all the time. All you got to do is pull it up and run it, and it cuts it all off. I've never had a problem with it. Yeah, it's just gone in seconds. Yeah.
And in the XI3 did a really good job of that as well. I could lift the motor up, put the power to it, and I'd fling grass everywhere. But I tell you what, that NK3, oh my goodness, it's something else. So
what's it run? What's your MPH
on
your? How fast to get you going?
In my first test now. So I took off. Juneteenth was a holiday on Wednesday, so I took off Thursday, and I'm off on Fridays anyway because I work 40 hours a week. So I was from Wednesday through Saturday, 4 days on the river. Well, one of those days I ended up having to be on a lake because the river got blown out. But the first time I took it out at 100%, now I didn't just go jamming it 100%. I launched at a boat ramp where I had slow flow because I was above a dam a good ways, and I knew if anything I could paddle, whatever. But I was getting my feet wet, so to speak, with the NK300, and kind of once I did that, and I was like, oh, 180 turn this way, 360, a little more power. I got it down pretty quick. But then I was like, all right, now how fast can we go?
Yep.
So going upriver, I hit almost 7 miles an hour. It was like 6.
You're cruising.
And I'm cruising, and it was moving. But I was over 6 miles an hour going up the river. And if I had the wind in my back coming back down, I probably could have went over 7. But that NK300 is something else. But I wanted something, because I got caught in current last year in the autopilot where that 45-pound thrust motor wasn't enough. I got myself into a spot where I got around kind of a current bend, and you know how it is when the river narrows and then the current picks up because you might have a rock island kind of come out, so you got less water moving faster. I was sitting there on full power with the autopilot, and I had to struggle to paddle as fast as I could to keep from getting kind of swept down.
Okay.
Now I was able to do it, but I was pretty tuckered after that. But after that, that's when I was like, I need more juice. And I knew Old Town wasn't going to update. Not Old Town. I knew Makota wasn't going to provide Old Town with a new motor that's brushless or more juice, maybe for a while. And I was like, you know what? This is an opportunity for me. If I want to chase smallies, I want to be on a river. I want something that pretty much whatever I may get into, I got enough horsepower that I can get back up.
There you go.
And so that's why I went with the NK300 versus like the 180 at the time and now the 180 Pro. But yeah, I wanted plenty of horse. Not that I ever use that. It's funny to be on plane in a kayak.
Oh yeah, it's fun
because it's nuts. But I mean that bona fide power. I have been through the worst waves. You were down at Gunnersville. No, you weren't. I was thinking the fall, but in the spring, Gunnersville was horrid. And we were out there with some storms and whatnot. But then I was out on the lake the other day, and Jeremy was kind of laughing, but clinching at the same time when a wake boat came by and threw like 4-foot waves at us. I mean, and they were even rolling. And he watched me in my kayak go down, and all he could see was about this much of my head and whatnot above the water as I was down the wave and coming back up. And he's like, bro, you all right? And I was like, yeah, I'm good. He said, you didn't even clinch a little? I was like, dude, Gunnersville, the wind, the waves, the stuff that I was in, I already have complete 100% trust in this yak. And I'm not worried about it. I've faced into it. Sometimes you get sideways over where you just roll up and down in them. But I mean, that bona fide it's something else. I am really, really impressed with it.
All right. See, I can't handle a bow mounted motor. I just don't. I barely like the camera that's 6 inches off the front of my
Yeah.
kayak, just because that's where I cast, and I have to get
Nice.
that low to skip,
Yep.
and I can't handle it. So I don't think
Yep.
I'll ever get a bow mount. It'll always be stern mounted for me.
Yep.
And so I don't know. It's just a personal preference. I could not. I wouldn't be able to do it. I'd have to stand and fish all the time. That would. And
Yeah.
I don't.
I
love
think my
doing that.
biggest fear with finally transitioning to the stern mount was getting a fish caught up in, if I was running like an anchor wizard or something off the front, to kind of do your own version of spot lock. You know, and I'll do that every now and then, depending on where I'm fishing, especially ledge fishing. But yeah, I'm getting over having it. So that XI3 is actually going to go on another boat that was donated to us by Blazer 88, and that's going to become our veteran boat, so that I
Okay.
can put somebody in an Old Town 120 paddle kayak. And I've got the plate coming in from, I think it's Innovative Sportsman or One Objective, one of the two. But that's going to be my veteran boat that I take, you know, new anglers out, or somebody who's, you know, missing parts and pieces and appendages and is not as able to be in a kayak. But this is going to be, like I said, this is going to be a boat that I can either control for them, or they can get into. And I know 100% that an Old Town 120 can hold any weight, because I've already proven that. But it's going to be like a vet boat that I use to take other people out with, that I can control for them, or they can control with, you know, the remote control. So
Yeah.
I'm pretty much leaving the NK300 on my boat, and then I'm going to make this as a second boat for another veteran or Homeland Hero, whoever wants to go fishing with us, to use. That's going to be motorized and run all day. So it'll be pretty cool.
Well, I got some questions here from the audience. You already answered one. That was a bearded paddler. He asked the question, how does the PWR been for the rivers for you? And then Cooler AP120 said, hey, Wendell, have you taken that inflatable out? And I have. And I did a video on it about 9 days ago. Locked arms up with Wilderness Systems and Confluence, and got myself a IATAK. And man, inflatable kayaks have come a long freaking way.
Yeah.
People when I posted a photo of that, people were like, is that an inflatable? Multiple times.
Yeah.
Because it looked like a hard shell. And with the drop stitch design, those things are like, they're rock hard. It's really, truly incredible for the right person. I think, and for the right scenario and how you fish and your storage, and if you like camping trips.
Let me address that for you, because I actually sent your video to my oldest son.
Okay.
Because he lives in, you know, he's recently single. He's got his daughters with him half the week, but he lives off of the White River, which is some of the best smallie fishing in downtown Indianapolis, like right out his backyard.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, bro, you need to get a kayak so that you can hop in the lake there, because I mean, I know dudes that catch 19s and 20-inch smallies there all the time. He's like, they won't let us store them like on our porch or whatever. And when I saw your video, I said, this is what you need, son, because this you can throw on your back porch, a closet, wherever, and would be perfect for a guy like you, who, you know, you've got time to yourself every other weekend to just pull that out, inflate it, roll it right down into the river, and then store it in your apartment when you get done. So you had at least a couple of views on that one from my oldest, for sure.
Heck yeah. So I was thoroughly impressed. I mean, it's got a lawn chair seat. It's got all the adapters, phone mounts, 4 other mounts. Man, it was kind of wild. I was kind of blown away. All right, another question here, and I think I can answer the question. The bearded paddler: do you run cables on the motor or the rudder still? I would imagine you're running cables.
Yeah, so I've disconnected the cables to my rudder, and I actually zip tied the rudder up. But if I ever got to the point where I wanted to reconnect it, it's like a 5-minute release. But I've actually disconnected the steering control and the motor, the rudder lift, and the rudder lift actually lifts my motor, and then the left and right are there. The only thing I had to add additionally myself was the reverse lock, which I just ran a piece of, you know, cable from there to the back of my seat, and I just reach behind me and lift that up to lock it in place when I reverse. Now, one of the things I would tell people, and I don't know if you've run into this yet, because honestly, your video when mounting the NK remote or the controller to the Yak Attack mount, you saved me the trouble because I went back and watched that video because I remember seeing you saying the screws that came with it were too long. So I used a couple of washers to mount that. So I never ran into that problem.
Yep.
And the other thing that I've heard so many people complain about is that lift arm bending when people go to raise and lower their motor because of the way it's positioned behind the pole on the NK motors. Some genius engineer, whoever it was, decided to take a couple of motorcycle handlebar clamps and they moved that lift arm to the front. So it's a whole lot easier to lift. But the other problem that solves is it keeps the motor, when lifted, from rolling to the right or the left, which is what causes the bending in a lot of people, or in a lot of people's NK. So by moving that lift arm to the front, it's a whole lot easier to lift, and it also keeps it from rolling over. So I did some shorts and stuff on that, and that'll be something I address. I'm getting ready to, at some point when I get a chance, to film my river edition version of my PWR build on the things that I did, because I covered the lake version, and this will be how I have it set up for running the river. So I've been on the river 5 or 6 times with it now, and it's second nature. And yeah, I don't think I'll ever take that motor off. As much as I love spot lock, I'm going to learn how to control it, on the water. That motor is something else. I mean, and I'm like you, I love to skip. And I put my 2 graphs on the one objective, and it sits really low. So, I mean, I've got kind of everything out of my way, and I can really whip across, because I probably do from you right to left, and then right across the front of my boat.
Right across the bow, and you don't want anything there.
Yep. Awesome. So, yeah, for those of us who love to skip, that's imperative. So having kind of that clear path.
Yeah, you're gonna want to love the skip, because let's hop into where these bass are hiding during the summer. And one of the places they definitely are hiding is those overhanging cover. They love to hide under those trees. They're going to love shade spots. They love dense vegetation. They love biting at night, right? So night fishing, if you can get out there at night, they love current. They love ledges and drop-offs. All right, so if you wanted to know where are the bass, and I just got a question a second ago. Let me read this for you. I started. It said, my girlfriend and I are new to kayak fishing and only have fished rivers, but want to get into a lake and are slightly intimidated. Do either of you have any advice on finding spots to fish? This is Oneida Lake, New York. And so I just gave you all the spots. Now let's break them down a little bit. Where do you want to start there, JT?
Well, I'm going to describe something that I drew up so that those are listening in onto the podcast will get a visual of this. And those of you who, especially, rivers and lakes are a little bit different, obviously, because, rivers, depending on how wide, you got overhanging trees like Darren was talking about. You'll find boat docks on either one, places for fish to hide under. But if you have like a more open water lake and you're like no trees along the line, or you're fishing in areas where there's like houses that push up against it, there's no real shade unless there's a boat dock. These fish will do a couple of different things. And one of the things you want to do is study a map. And I tell a lot of people to Google the Navionics web app, because that will show you like a topographical view of like your lake, so you can see where the break lines are and stuff like that. And one of the little tricks is if you kind of zoom out from the lake, where you see the topo lines kind of come together and form like a black set of lines together, that means those areas are close together. That means there's a drop off. So what you want to look for in the summertime, when these fish get off of these points and start going and heading back out a little deep, they'll sit down like in our lake. It may get 20 feet at the deepest in the lake, but we find that a lot of times that the fish like to set about 12 feet down in the cooler water. And this is before the thermocline becomes an issue. But yeah, so if you were to Google, say, Navionics and then your lake name, it'll actually take you to your lake. So if you did Navionics Monroe Lake, you'll see my lake, that we, it's the biggest lake here in Indiana that we fish, but it'll show you these topo maps. And then once you get one lake pulled up, you can kind of scroll around your state and kind of find what you're looking for. But it's really cool. But if you don't have electronics on your kayak, this app on your phone is invaluable, and it doesn't cost that much a year to have, but it'll literally show you your location along with the topo lines of a lake, and that really will help you find stuff out. So what you're looking for this time of year is shallow water near deep water. Now, what does that mean? You're going to have a flat, which, say for example, you have a lake and you find a section along a point and it's like 3 to 5 feet deep, right?
Mhm.
You want to find the area where that drops off sharply, or find a deep ledge that drops off into deep water. Now, this could be a section that's like a flat area next to a creek channel or a river channel, or if you're in a strip pit where they've mined it, it might be a sudden drop off. But you want to find like a ledge. There you go. So you found one. So if you see like areas like right there where you're showing where there's a bunch of contour lines closer together, those are pretty much a drop off from shallow to deep. But if you pull back from it, you see how those look black? That's one of the tips to find your ledges. If those lines from a distance look darker, that means because those lines are closer together.
Ooh, look at this.
Really good examples right in there.
Middle of the lake. There's a creek bed right here, river creek bed, right in the middle of the lake.
That's like an example of one of these ledges. And what these fish will stage in the deeper, cooler water. Now, this is like if you don't know what the thermocline is, there's a time of the year when oxygen levels start to change at the bottom, and the bottom basically comes up and then turns over with the top of the lake. Fish need oxygen just like we do. That's what their gills are for. But before the thermocline starts coming up and the lake rolls over before fall, what you want to do is those fish will, a lot of the times, they will sit down in deeper water. And then when they're ready to feed, they'll push up and then start chasing bait fish in the flats. Why do they go to the flats? There's less water. If you've got less water, it's easier for them to catch the bluegill, the shad, the things that they're chasing. They don't want to expend any more energy, just like I don't. I want to walk to the fridge. I don't want to walk to the store, right? They don't want to expend that energy. They want to chase those fish and eat, and then go back and enjoy their time. Now, you have to be there fishing that flat when they're actively feeding. So on those flats, that's when you're throwing your chatterbaits, your crankbaits, they're up there actively feeding. So how do you trick them into eating if they're still sitting down in the deeper water? You throw baits that start on the flat and fall off the ledge and come down. That could be deep diving crankbaits, like there's like a lot of famous ones. You'll see like different versions. Sixth Sense has some different ones. You've got the Strike King, 5XDs, 6XDs, and then Rapala, however you want to say it, have the DT series. That's the dive 2. So you want to find a crankbait that matches the area that you're going to hit. So you're going to cast up onto that flat. You're going to start digging it down into the dirt. And then when it falls off of that ledge and comes down, if you're fishing 12 feet, you probably want a 15-foot diving crankbait. So you keep banging and clanging that bottom all the way along. Now, these are pretty popular with big bass fishermen. When you hear anybody talk about ledge fishing, these are the kind of baits that you're throwing. But you can do this from a kayak too. A good crankbait rod. You don't have to overspend here. I mean, inexpensive, medium, rod, medium, moderate, fast. Just something that you can crank it slow and keep that crankbait banging off of the bottom. That's if you've got like shad type stuff. Now, if your forage is crawfish, well, you want to either grab like a jig, like, I got a big Berkeley skipping jig with a Strike King Rage Bug on it. This is actually a skipping jig, but I like this because it's got a smooth bottom that I can drag along the bottom and fall off the ledge. Football jigs are real popular for this technique as well, because if you got a lot of rocks, that football head will kind of bang and clang down through there as well. Now, if you don't have big jigs, you get you like an adrenaline crawl and a wobble head, which is a football head on a free hanging hook, and you just drag these off of these ledges, and you kind of match in the hatch. Now, say you just don't know what's down there. I hate a Ned rig. I throw Ned rigs in rivers and everywhere else, and I lose a million of them. But I'm going to tell you what, this darn thing right here. Now, this is a bigger bait than a regular Ned, but it's on a heavier, Z-Man Shrooms, Ned head. But
Good one.
I drag this thing off of ledges, and this actual bait is one I've been playing with from Grande Bass, and it's like black and blue fleck on the bottom or on one side, and then green pumpkin and red fleck on the other. So whatever your fish, what color your fish is looking for that day. But this is the one I actually caught that 20.5 on the other day because I couldn't get them to kind of commit to anything else. All right, so if they're not chasing anything that looks like a shad, if they're not chasing anything that looks like a bluegill, if they're not chasing anything that looks like a crawl, throw them something that doesn't look like anything. and that's what this thing did. Now, on the same story, I love throwing tubes, but one of the other ones I've been playing with from Grande Bass is this airtail wiggler. Now, these are some that I kind of dyed myself because the first bag I got of these in a monster bass bag was like that copper truce color, that
the bubble tail
on one side and then green pepper. I wish I had some of the originals. I ran out of them, but they were so effective. But I was dragging this on this same big Ned head, but this little tail, it's got an air pocket.
Yeah.
On the bottom of it, and that holds it up. So a lot of people actually compare this to like an X zone, Ned zone that's got kind of like that, but it's got a solid tail bubble. This one's got an air bubble in it. And I saw Mikey Balls take the bait fuel injector and shoot some of that in here. And so it was actually letting some bait fuel go. And we're
going to talk about that. We're going to talk about this in a minute.
Yes, we are. A lot of people are skeptical, but I'm bold.
I'll tell you where I'm skeptical and where I'm sold. I'm a half believer. Anyways, we'll get back to that in a minute.
So these kind of soft plastics, and sometimes it's just a matter, and they work great on a spinning rod, which, most people have a spinning rod. So it keeps it nice and simple. Barring that, like Grande Bass also has a shaky head worm that's got a longer, slimmer, like bubble tail. And I've got this on the Z-Man. I think this is, what's his name? Shaking My Head, kind of. But this is actually a great one because it really doesn't snag on anything. And you could and it's not like, people think, oh, it's a shaky head. You got to shake it. Just drag it like you would a Carolina rig. Just nice and slow. And these fish will just take off with it.
Give it a little tappy. Tap.
I literally in 2 weeks caught one PB on this lake, another PB, because my best there before was maybe like 17.5 inches. And then I caught a 19 something, and then like a 1975. And then, actually I caught the 20.5. And then I went to another point and I caught like a reverse PB, and it was 1975.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean,
some nice fish,
just
folks.
Slowing down if they don't want the speed of the crankbait and they didn't want it, then I started slowing down. Didn't want the jigs, didn't want the crawl looking thing, because I don't know that I've actually seen crawls in this lake. But when it was the plainest, dumbest, nothingest, I can't believe it's not butter. My cousin has told me to throw a Ned rig forever. He caught a 6.5 something at one of our bigger lakes, just dead sticking a Ned and just dragging it. And I was like, these things are stupid. They don't catch fish. I always lose. And then 2 of my 3 biggest fish on bogs came on a Ned rig, one on this one and then one on this airtail, just slowly dragging them. And those fish just and we're talking like 2:00 in the afternoon.
Yeah. They're deep. They're down there. That's where they're at.
And understand this, if you take away anything from this podcast, big bass eat in the middle of the day. And they also eat overnight. But if you're going to probably catch your biggest bass of the summer, it's going to be in that 12 to 2:00 time frame, most likely. So in the worst time of the day, that's when it seems like, and Jeremy and I have noticed this for years. If we're going to catch a big bass, it's going to be in the middle of the day. And if I think back to every big fish I've ever caught in a tournament, it was probably in the last hour of the tournament, which is 1:00 to 2:00. And I'm somebody asked what the weight of the Ned was. This is one of the bigger, heavier ones, because like I said, I'm throwing this in like 3 to 5 feet and I'm dragging it down to 12. So I know a lot of people say night bite. Gramps used to be a night owl. Gramps goes to bed early these days. I cannot hack overnight.
I'm bed at 9:30
I used to go to bed
p.m.
like at 2:00 playing video games.
Yeah. I'm 9:30.
I used to go to bed at
my
2:00
wife and I are
playing
looking
video
at each other.
games and get up like at 5:30. Gramps is in bed like by 10:00, getting up at 4:30 these days.
No.
But I would love the night fish. I just cannot hack it anymore.
Yeah, this morning I was out yesterday morning, and this morning I was like, all right, I'm going to do it again. Told my wife, 4:30 a.m. My phone alarm sounds. I'm like, I can't do it. I woke up and I got to turn this thing off. I can't do back to backs. I'm getting old. I just can't do the back. I'll be dragging. I got to be, top of my game for my job, and I can't be dragging all day. I got a team depends on me. So
I mean, and you have to pace yourself, like you said. You have to be sharp to set the hook, and then you have to stay constant through the day. Stay constant through the day while you're doing your work too, because we have responsibilities. We're adults now.
Yeah.
A lot of people will say, okay, they're not chasing things fast. They're not chasing things slow. They might be fat and full, and so they're suspended off of the bank a little bit. But again, these are all bass you can find with a 2D traditional sonar. So first you find the ledge. You start by going around points, and if you find a long point that stays in that 3 to 5 foot section, you say, okay, I mentally, I look, I've studied my map maybe a little bit. I know where to kind of start. And then I find that section where it does the most sharpest drop off. And then you're dragging these baits because they may be sitting at the top of that, before it drops off, or at the very bottom of it. Now, sometimes, of course, bass don't always do what we want to do. But if you say, okay, I'm going to go from the bank towards the middle of the lake, and I'm watching my sonar, all you're doing is watching where it goes from 3 to 5 feet, 3 to 5 feet, and then drops. Right. And you're like, okay, that's the spot. And sometimes back in the old days, we had buoy markers that we would drop in the water. You can make them with plastic water bottles and a string and a little weight on the bottom. Just where you roll over it, you say, this is where it drops.
Yep.
So you throw that where that drop is, and then you go out and, say, get 25, 30, casting distance away from it.
Yep.
And then you cast at your buoy or water bottle or whatever. Be sure to pick up your trash before you leave. But you're going to let that sink to the bottom and either, like I said, crank past it or drag one of these soft plastics past it. Now, fish don't always sit on the bottom looking feet up. Sometimes they suspend. But those are fish you can see with your 2D sonar if you go off that ledge and you say, okay, I'm going to cast. Nobody's home. They're not up on the flat. Okay, maybe they're suspended. So push out towards the middle of the lake a little bit and start looking for those little fish arches. They may be 7, 8 feet down. That's when you want to turn back around and throw a jerk bait at them. And you can tie this on any spinning rod. Now, this one's a little bit different than your traditional 3 to 5 foot that, you kind of run as a crankbait. This is a Megabass +1, but you find any Strike King, Megabass, 6 Cents, whatever your brand is, Berkeley, whoever, and you get one of these that dive down to about between 6 and 8 feet. You start ripping this through that school, and you talk about if they don't want to eat because they just ate, it's like that Wheeler and DC commercial. He can make them fall asleep under a log. You start ripping one of these through and twitch, pause. They're going to decide they want dessert. Because I was actually playing with this the other day, and you can't pull one of these things through them and then just leave it be. I mean, I had crappie chasing it. I caught crappie on this. I caught bass on this. But you just twitch, pause. It's like as soon as you tease them, they're not going to let it go by.
See, it's so interesting, like just the way different people fish. I would never pick up a jerkbait and fish it right now. It's just not in my arsenal. It's not in any of my top 5 lures that I've been using, the videos I'm posting. But that doesn't mean it doesn't work. It just means that's not where I'm at. I'm doing a different strategy, which is just fascinating.
So, you know what the next one is? Because I know you're not doing this.
No, I don't fish spoons.
Big old spoon. This is a flutter spoon. And again, it's one of those things you throw it out in them. Once you find a school, you throw it out in them and you just rip it and let it fall. Rip it, let it fall.
And that thing shines and
it just shines and flutters. And you get big ones like this.
Oh,
caught one on the because I've been playing with the jerk bait. This what I'm getting into now is where I'm going next. If I keep getting blown out on the river and I'm forced back to the lakes, this thing is what I'm throwing next.
Have you
And
been picking
then
him up on that? Because I know Milliken, that was like his juice, man. He'd get absolute donkeys.
Milliken, Zaldane. I mean, it's funny. The great thing about the internet today is when we have pros doing YouTube, they talk a lot about this stuff, but a lot of our kayak minds were so used to doing kind of traditional same things that we don't realize that we have the same advantage as boaters of being able to get off the bank and fish a different way. Now, I think I've shown you everything I was going to show you, and I got one more, but this is something I've never thrown. It's something I should be throwing, and it's something the next time I'm out ledge fishing off a lake is going to be a hair jig.
Hair jig. Interesting.
So again, something you can swim off the bottom, twitch, let it drop. You can drag it like a Carolina rig. But again, if you've got, places where you're mimicking shad in your lake, I watched an Edwin Evers video during lunch today, and he was just smoking them. And it seems like a lot of these guys that are catching big fish off ledges in the summer, and again, a ledge could be from 2 feet to 5 feet, 2 feet to 7 feet, 3 feet to 12 feet, whatever you got, these kind of tactics can make a difference. But I guess the bucktail in these swim jigs, if you watch the videos where people are underwater with scuba gear, you can really see why this would entice, that deep bite, because it looks like a bait fish underwater. So the spoon, I've kind of, with everything that I've shown tonight, the spoon and the swim jig are the two that I really haven't focused on, but there'll be topics of future videos here in the near future, unless I get on a real good smallie bite and say I'm not going back to the lakes ever again.
So really quick, I want to hop back real fast because
Mm-hmm.
you talked about something I believe many anglers, especially kayak anglers, it's a step they never take, and it's a huge disadvantage to them, which is back to the mapping. It's the pre-work, right?
Yeah.
A lot of us are like, oh, I got done working a crazy week. My job is crazy. My life is crazy. My wife and kids are crazy. I don't have time to put in pre-work. I just wake up in the morning and go. And I want to just take a second. Let's hop back to this map. So the map I'm going to show you is actually a really popular bass fishing lake here in Ohio called Mosquito Lake. It is one of those gems when it comes to bass fishing. And what this is telling us right here, I mean, just by looking at this map, right? So you're going to have a road bed going across the entire lake that you wouldn't know about, right?
Yep.
Unless you watch this map. And I've been on this lake before, and this is what you fish because they are loaded along this underwater road bed that you wouldn't know it's there. Also, you got a submerged bridge right here, right? Can you imagine 17 feet submerged bridge in the middle of summer? This thing loaded, right?
Yes.
Go find this bad boy. Then over here, you take two of the things we talked about a moment ago. You got your ledge with docks on top of it. My gosh, the juiciness. I am fishing this and probably pissing off with dock owners all morning long. They're just loaded right here. And so if you're not looking at these maps, it looks like are these little things, are these
that's probably where somebody has dropped a little mark there to share with the other people. Yep.
Yeah. So just keep in mind, sometimes this is done accidentally, right? Some guys don't know they're dropping marks and making it public. And so you can get out here and look, they know where it's at. They're out here on this ledge, picking them up where this ledge meets the creek bed. Boom, right there. And so just type in Navionics, your favorite lake. And if this is all you learned, this is really going to elevate your game during the summer, because now you know exactly where to go. And this is a giant lake. The thing is absolutely massive. And so for most, it's going to be also massively intimidating. But what I used to do before I had electronics, I literally would go and just kind of mark out on a piece of paper, and I'd take photos of where I want to go, and I made my milk run, and I went out and found these places. Now it's a whole lot easier with my Garmin UHD, but nonetheless, this is where other girls are out there.
And see,
They're picking them
and the
up
cool
on
thing
all
is
these
this
places.
app on your computer or a tablet or whatever, the web version is free.
Yeah.
You can sit there and do all the research you want. You can actually pay to have it, as an app on your phone or a tablet and take with you if you wanted to. If you don't have, more, capable navionics enabled, like, Darren and I's Garmin's are, the Active Captain app that goes on your phone gives you a lot of the same, and I love that because I'll sit there if I'm studying a map like this and I find spots that I know I want to check and fish, I will mark the waypoints on my phone. And when I reconnect my phone to both of my Garmin's, they will sync up and those waypoints will be waiting for me when I get on the water. It's really cool. But if you don't have that, a simple app like this on your phone makes a huge difference. Another app I will recommend to people is the Windy app, because it will show you the direction the wind is blowing on the lake that you're fishing. So if you wait for a bit and say, okay, the wind's been blowing 12 miles an hour against these particular banks for the last 4 hours, that means those bait fish are going to be getting pushed up against those banks. And the fish know this, and they will go where the bait fish is. You start throwing your jackhammer, your fluke, your whatever up on those wind-blown banks. That's another, kind of way to kind of cut down on the guessing game of where these bass will be. It's really understanding your prey. Now, when we were talking earlier about how we talk about how bass relate to things, I remember this. I got a book up here that Kevin Van Dam wrote 20 some years ago. But they talked about how fish relate to objects and things. And they put fish in a little kiddie pool with nothing in the kiddie pool, and the fish were scattered all over the place. They put a brick in the kiddie pool, and the bass related to the brick. And then they said it doesn't even have to be an object. It just has to be something different. So they emptied the kiddie pool, put a piece of black tape on the bottom of it, filled the pool back up, put the fish back in there, and they all hung around that black piece of duct tape on the bottom of the pool. So bass like to relate to things. So if you're finding those bridge pilings that Darren was talking about or brush piles, bass like to hang out near stuff. If they're not doing anything, they like to hang out near stuff. And so if you can find places where they like to hang out, you're increasing your chances just that much more. And I see Trevor talking about the Omnia app, and Omnia
Saturday
Pro
morning
is something else.
Oh, love it. So good.
There's
wow,
so
we're
many,
54 minutes already.
Oh, are you kidding? Wow.
I know, right? We're cruising. No, it's good.
Yes.
I'm not going to go into all my baits I'm using because I got videos on those. I've been doing a lot of the top 3 and kind of what I'm throwing and how it's working, and it's working well. I'm in the state of Ohio. I've been either top 3 every month. Right now, I'm still holding first, and so right now jigs are where it's at for me. 3/8 ounce jig on a missile D-bomb trailer. I caught my largest this year. I've been goofing around a little bit with swim jigs, and I put a nice Biospawn Exo Swim 4-inch kind of Kayak looking deal, and I picked up that 21.75, which is the longest fish. It's off my personal best by a 1/4 inch. And so jigs of where it's been at, but I'll hit my milk run spots in the morning. They're not hitting. It's not till later, like 8, 9, 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Is where they'll actually start picking up some bites where I'm at. Of course, I can pick them up in numbers on a wacky rig. Ned rigs will pick them up. If I want a larger fish, I bring out my 3.5 inch Yamatanuki green pumpkin black fleck. I find those ledges. And sometimes where, to be honest with you, you have those days. Summer's tough. Sometimes the bite's on. Sometimes the bite's just not on. And because you're on that lake all the time, they're stingy for whatever reason.
Yeah.
It's okay to go scanning, right?
Yes.
I have a lake that I fish often, and I was like, you know what? The last hour I'm probably not going to catch. It's not been biting today, so I went scanning parts of the lake I typically wouldn't scan. I threw out my on my Garmin. You can throw out the distance on your side scan, and I just started rolling through places like, whoa! I did not know there was underwater structure there. And so now I know, and I've been going back to it, and it's probably 12 feet of water. So it's probably some of the deepest parts in this lake that I fish, and I've been picking them up there, and it's been
Yep.
a ton. And I also been losing a lot of jigs because I don't know what the crap's down there, but it's eating my lures.
Yep.
And
But
I
I
lost my
mean,
lure
that's
retriever recently too, which is a bummer. Ugh.
oh no. But I mean, you're right. This time of year, it's like if you can either drag a jig or throw a wacky rig. If you're gonna catch, it's just figuring out kind of what they want too. But if you watch like channels like Fish the Moment, if you want to get some basic electronic knowledge,
Mhm.
he will just scan and scan and scan. But again, even if you've got a little fish finder with a little map on it and you can mark waypoints, and I used to do before I had fancier electronics, I had this Navionics app on my phone, and I would go around and I would watch my 2D, and anywhere on the bottom where I would see that little like bloop of a brush pile or a stump or whatever, I would mark it on that app, and then I would have that. So it's like, okay, I know something's down there, and then it's just a matter of casting until you kind of find it, and then with today's jigs, you'll feel it when you hit it, and it's like okay. And a lot of times when you hit whatever it is, if it's like a rock or whatever, and bounce off of it, a lot of times when you lift it up over that object, that's when a bass is going to smack it. It's pretty good. I mean, it's a great way. You can fish as technical as you want
Yep.
or as basic as you want and still find them. Gene Jensen did a video years ago where if you don't have any fish finder or anything, you can still use a Carolina rig to cast out and kind of drag and feel the bottom, feel the depth changes. You can basically scan the bottom of that lake or pond or wherever you're fishing with something as simple as a Carolina rig and find the differences in the depths. And it's kind of amazing what you can do even if you just go old school.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy because I feel like a lot of bass in the summer, a lot of people are feeling this way, I'm sure. You're like, I just feel like this smaller fish. Doesn't mean the big bass aren't there and they're not to be caught. But a lot of times those smaller bass, they're going to be higher in the water column, right?
Yep.
So you're fishing these things, you're going to get hit by a lot of smaller fish because those bigger bass, they're typically deeper. I'm not saying you won't catch a big girl hiding in the shade of the lily pads, but a lot of the big ones, you're like, why do I keep on getting small ones? Because all these little aggressive small fish that can really handle the heat better than the big bass
Yep.
are up higher in the water column. So you're getting those aggressive little fish who are hungry to chomp on. So something to think about.
Oh, yeah.
And I know I used to fish the banks a lot. Deep water fishing used to be really, really intimidating for me. I was like, I'm just looking out and I see boats out there all the time. And a lot of times kayaks feel just maybe a little bit intimidated just because of the boats out there. And then the jet ski starts rolling, and then you got ledges in the middle of the lake. Then you got tubes that start rolling out. And so I get it. But if you have an opportunity to get an all, electric only lake, and there's not going to be people flying around you, go to Navionics, try this out. This is where they're hiding right now. If you want a big girl, they are out there, and they're typically
Yep.
deep, and that's where they're hiding. If you're like, hey, where did they go? And you're picking them up earlier in the year, and you're like, where'd the crap they go? They all got downsized. Tonight's
And
the
they'll be
show.
out deep for the next couple of months. It's not until just before the oxygen starts to flip up and the thermocline starts to rave. And if you've got any kind of electronics, you'll see when the thermocline it's a distinct line in the water, and you'll see it. You'll see it each time you go out later in the summer. It looks like the bottom is floating off of the bottom, but that's literally what it is that thermocline coming up. And then those fish they're not going to sit down where there's no air. They don't do it. Catfish and others will. Bass do not like it. So when that thermocline starts coming up, that's when your jerk bait should come out, because you're literally cutting the lake in half from top to bottom until that oxygen comes all the way up and turns over. And then, it kind of resets itself for the fall. But you'll see it as a complete different line. And you can Google it and see images of it too, so you know what to look for in your electronics.
Yeah.
But
You got a
yeah,
video
when
on it
those,
too.
when,
You did a video on the thermocline.
yep. Oh yeah, yeah. We do so many videos, we don't even know what we did videos
I
on.
remember that one for whatever reason. I
Yeah.
was like, oh, I need one. I'll do that during the winter. That's a winter time.
Yeah,
Wintertime video.
exactly.
Oh, I love it. Well, we're over an hour here. We got 66 people live right now. If you got a question for us, let us know. However, I want to talk a little bit about Knucklehead. You and I are both team captains for the Knucklehead.
Yes.
And if you're not familiar with it, it's 4 1-month tournaments. We are in month 2, finishing up month 2 with 5 days ago. And so let's talk a little bit about what's going on. You can sign up. There's 2 more months left, and you can sign up for our teams. So let me share my screen here. I'm going to bring this up and kind of share what is going on, how that's all playing out. This is always fun for me. All right, let me see here. All right, I think this is mine. Nope, Team Gramps. We're going to Gramps. Let me remove this banner here. It's in my way. There we go. All right, boss. This is you. You got some freaking hammers on your team. Liz, 110? That's nuts.
Yeah. She set her example early. So 2 of my teammates from last year, since Jeremy and I are both running teams, Jeremy's leading Team Freedom Squad, and then I am still leading Team Gramps. Alex and Liz were both 1 and 2 in both of ours. And so Liz is on my team this year, and then Alex is on Jeremy's. And so, I mean, I've still got two of my teammates from last year on 2 of the teams that, belong to me and my brother, which is really cool.
That is cool.
And then in June, I knew Josh wasn't fishing much last year because he was focused on some catfish seminars. Plus, I think we pretty much knew Liz was going to do what Liz does. But he's back at it down in Mississippi, just tearing them up. And then Stephen Guthrie, who we met at Knucklehead and the national championship out of Georgia, is really lighting them up as well. And then our Smalley expert up there in Vermont, Jesse, has got 101 inches of smallmouth bass up there.
Wow.
He might have a large year or 2 in there too, but dude is a freaking hammer up in Vermont. Very much like your hammer from up north as well. And so it's going to be kind of cool. And here's where we're both going to have some advantage. And you may have thought about this already, but since we have to split days on Wheeler and Guntersville, we're going to want to have a couple of Smalley experts because Wheeler is known, if you watched any of the Bassmaster Elite that was just there, that there's some big Smalleys there too. So having a diverse team of skills with both the largemouth and the smallmouth, I think both of us are going to be in pretty good shape with some big green fish chasers as well as some bronze pros as well.
Yeah, I like it. That's good.
Now,
so
I'm not saying Jesse's going to win, but I'm betting he's going to have a pretty good shot at a spot in the next 2 months.
Yeah, Jesse's not winning unless he starts catching some 24.5 inch Smalleys, which not going to happen.
Yeah.
Because Josh Welch, 24.5, he's all 21s and above. Well done. 110. That's like a dream of mine.
And he did that pretty early in the month too. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah, I feel like
he's been out trying to find a bigger so he can break that 110 mark. But yeah, he's really working it.
I'm excited. I broke the 100 mark for the first time in my ever.
That's incredible.
Months ago. Really yeah, for Ohio, that's and so I've been pushing 97 and above. Let's take a look at mine real fast. This is not mine. Where's mine? Give me a hot second. Go over here and find it. Team Wendell. All right. By the way, if you haven't done this yet, how much does it cost? Like $25 for the month?
I think so.
Is that what it is now? I think so. Yeah. So love for you guys. Someone just joined the team. I was at 40 when I started this podcast. So whoever you are, thank you.
They're already getting lit up, ready to go.
Yeah, and so we knew we were going to hammer us out of the gate, right? And that's the beauty. I was talking to Grants about this in the green room. The beauty of this tournament is that if you haven't signed up early on, you can't, like, once you're on a team, you can't continue being in the tournament, right? So the beauty of this is all the hammers are going to be gone in the earlier month. They're all going to be placed on teams. And so if you're like, I am never going to be able to compete with 100 plus, that's okay, because all the hammers have been placed because there's a lot of teams. And now you can see we're in June. And 94.25 is going to win it right now as we stand with Tammy Sanchez, which is awesome because these are 2 of my old teammates from last week. Greg Massa, who lives on Wheeler. So I need him to be on my team, right? Because he knows that lake in and out.
You get your guys back,
She does hammers from New Hampshire, which is just
Yep.
impressive on what she's able to do. But
Oh,
Seth
yeah.
Taylor won. And so he 24 and a half, 23. I mean, he caught some just pigs down in Florida. That's what you do down in Florida. But I'm not saying it's easy to catch those. So you got to know what you're doing, but they're down there. So I'm excited. We
Yep.
got 5 days left, 6 days left. I posted 99, almost hit 100 last month, 97 this month. And so, and these are all jig, 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 jig this month. All my biggest bass, swim jig, football head, football head, football head, football head. So if
Yep.
you're wondering what it is, and I'm picking them all up in 12 to 18 feet of water. So I'm not picking these things up fairly shallow. So if you're wondering what,
100%.
where are we getting them at? How, because there was a day where I'd look at leaderboards and I go down and be like, okay, you got 15s and 16s and 15s and 16s. How in the world are the guys around me fishing in the same state and the same fisheries catching 18s to 20s consistently?
Yep.
The jig is what's doing it for me. That's all I can say. That's what's doing it for me. And so it's been an absolute blast. So if you haven't done that yet, hop on the team. We would love to have you on the team. That's for sure. It's gonna be a blast again this year. So I'm
And the
jacked up for it.
championship is such a fun weekend. I mean, yeah, sure, it's a competition, but I mean, we just had a ball. I mean, I know the night we had where you came over and we were chilling out, smoking some stogies and telling some stories. Just
Heck yeah, man.
that's what it's all about, man. Just the fishing was great. Breaking your PB while you were down there. I mean,
I know.
and that's the cool thing. If you're not from like a big fish, area, you go down to Alabama, you have a chance. I mean, I still haven't broke 20, 21. 21 is my catch PB. But I mean, you go down there, any cast can be the one. And Darren just happened to do it right when it was needed, found that right boat dock and caught a tank.
So juicy.
Just caught a tank with no
net. And then the next day,
I can't believe you didn't have a net.
I lipped that mother.
Of all the torturing I did for you all summer long, and you go down there and don't have a net and catch that giant with no net.
I had a net. I left it in my truck because here's what happened. When you drive down there, the back of my truck is just full of crap. So I'm not in my usual rhythms, and it was hidden behind a bunch of other crates of crap that I had. And I wasn't willing to go back because I would have lost an hour. And I've been lipping bass for years and feel pretty comfortable with it. And I just moved over to a net about 6 months or 4 months prior because you were riding me like a show pony on it. And so, so I was like, you know what? I can do this. And I lipped it, man. It was great. That thing jumped. Oh, it's so good. So it's gonna be a good time. Got a question here. Not a question, a comment from Michael S. On Team Fluke Master and Team Run. Sorry, guys. It's all right. You know what Gramps and I call that? Team second, third, and fourth place is actually what we call that.
we our whole plan last year was beat Chad, beat Gene, and we sure did. This was the year of the little tubers.
So good. So good. So if you want to be team second and third loser or third and fourth loser, that's fine. That's fine, Michael. I love when the trash talk starts.
Oh yeah, good. It'd be fun. It was a
blast.
All right,
we could go on and on. I'll have to have you back on again here soon. One of my favorite guests here, and I know a lot of people love it. But I want to do I've been fishing out with some fun, some underrated, overrated. And I really like inviting those who are listening in to be a part of this as well. Some of them are fishing related, some are unrelated to fishing. But let's talk a little bit. Let's talk a fishing related one. Underrated, overrated. Bait fuel. Scents.
I would say the fact that since both of us made sure without even saying a word to each other. And I noticed yours is not open just like mine is, which means you have more than one.
Oh yeah, I got a 2-pack.
Exactly. Underrated. And people still, I have been talking about this on Instagram quite a bit lately, but I mean, and people say, well, it's what is it? What's a scent? What is it? I was like, look, go to their website. And, I'm not playing engineer, scientist, or whatever. I know when I'm not using this stuff, it seems like when I am, I typically tend to get bit more often. And I am just now to the point where I fully believe whatever the attractant that this stuff is expelling into the water. I got to show you this. You're going to laugh.
He has left the building, folks. If you're listening in, he just left his chair. Okay, he's back. Here we go.
So you know how they now sell bait fuel with its injector, right? Like
Right,
$30
kit.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, Gramps has got a
There you
different
go.
solution. It's the turkey injector.
Turkey
so
baster.
I can put some of this in here and then now inject it into these air tails, into the soft plastics, so that it will keep doing that. But yeah, I got one with like 3-4 different needles. Hope I don't stab myself on the water.
I did that when your grease gun that Native tries to sell you the $60 grease gun. I was like, guys, just go out and buy a turkey baster so you can shove in that little hole in the propel drive and be good to go. So yeah, double use.
Yep. But there is a difference between this stuff than there's a difference between this
comment right now.
Yes. I wondered if we were going to get through a whole live without a reference.
No, we can't. Talk about it in a second. Oh my gosh, keep going.
But it's like, you know, we've all used Spike It, we've all used JJ's Magic, we've all used spray on garlic, whatever. This is not a scent. This is some kind of attractant that when it's in the water, I don't know what it is, but they grab it, and I will not use it from now on. I've actually started pouring it in my bags of baits, the night before, and then I will apply it liberally all through the time that I'm on the water. Jig, chatterbait, soft plastics. I've even put it on crankbaits and spinner baits. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a scent killer, so they don't whatever, but it's something about it. It just seems to catch bass. So yeah, okay. Underrated and highly recommend.
I do think it's underrated. I think it's going to be something that gets talked about a lot more, and more people are using it and coming over to the dark side. I'm not sure I'm a believer yet. I might change on this, but as of right now, I'm not a believer that it tracks bass, that they're up there sniffing it, especially in warm weather. I think the hits are so violent that I'm not a believer there. Maybe in colder water when they're a little more lethargic and do come up and get close to it. So where I am a believer is that this is going to cover up. Like, I'm constantly working on my workbench, do a lot of how-to videos. I'm working with grease. I got my weed trimmer up there. I'm pouring gas. It's spilling all over the place. My lures are sitting on that. My oils are on there. And so that's why I like it. It's going to be covering up those unnatural scents. And so I need every extra quarter second that when that bass hits that jig and I haven't detected that bite yet because it's going left, right, or at me, I need it in its mouth as long as I possibly can in order to set that hook, and before it realizes that it's actually just rubber, steel, lead, and tungsten, and not actually a delicious bluegill or delicious shad. And so if I can get an extra quarter second, because this has masked all the other stuff that's in my life and on my lures, that's where I believe this is helping me.
Have you ever taken it and just squirted some on your hand? And
I haven't done it. So how you apply it, for those who've never used it, you want to marinate your soft plastics in it. And so you take a bag, you put it over there, or you inject it. And I think that's beautiful too, because once you eject it, you throw it out a few times, you can bring it back and you can kind of smush it up and get it to come out again.
Yep.
And so, but no, I haven't put it on my hands.
I did that one time when I stopped and get gas on the way to So I was like, you know what? I'm not taking, because I was always paranoid. I'm not gassing up until after but I got caught one time where I hadn't gassed up before I went to the lake, and I was like, oh, I got to stop. So when I got on the water, I'm like,
all right,
why not?
Oh my gosh, because why not? Exactly. All right, we're gonna hear what people say. Sly Fox says it's rated. Smoke 74. Haven't tried it. Trevor Wagner, underrated. Hanneman, overrated. The bait fuel stick is great for hard baits also. Okay. Trevor Wagner's
thing, I wonder.
I guess it must, every worm, every soft plastic I throw is coated in the magic lube. Is that a different, or is this what he's referring to this as? Is there something called the magic lube? I don't want to go actually any deeper. No one actually answer that. I actually don't want to answer for that. Michael says it's on now. See, I love it. Underrated. JJ's massive magic. Bass Ackworth says I use Haktua. Just spit on it. Oil-based scents are not the move. Okay. Oh my gosh, there's all kinds. Underrated. It's the juice. Wow, there's a lot. There's a lot. A lot of I never used it either, which is interesting. So I'm starting to use it more and more, and that's why it's not that expensive, folks. I got this massive 2 bottles, 16 ounces. It was like $20. So you just never know. Never know.
Yeah, my brother
can follow
fishes
the
every
logic.
day, and he swears by it. And if he, as much as he throws a Texas rig at everything,
Yeah.
it's one of those things where it's like, okay, if he's doing it, I gotta, because when we look at catch 22 and he's ahead of me by like 40 some inches, okay, there's something different. And so I got to start playing the game.
Gotta start listening.
Yeah,
gotta get a little something different. All right, underrated, overrated, tiny house movement. I can't.
Are people still building tiny houses?
Oh my goodness, tiny houses and van life is like what my YouTube feed is full of. I don't know why. I don't think I've ever watched a full video on them, but I feel like by how many videos I watch, I feel like there's millions of people living out of their car right now. And like
where the
Walmart
ones that get
lot.
me are the ones that are solo camping and they don't say a word. If somebody's going to get my attention for like 30 minutes to an hour without me realizing it, it's the dude pulling up to some landscape in the rain, setting up his tent, setting up his camp, not saying a single word, with the raindrops hitting off of the tent, the tarp, the whatever. And then I look up and it's like, that was 40 minutes. And what just happened?
What did I just give my life to? Someone owes me 30 minutes of life.
But yeah, they got me. And I'll look, and this dude will have like 1 million views on every video. The ones who go camping in the snow.
Oh,
same thing. Just not saying a word, just the sounds of nature. It's crazy. It's crazy, but they get me.
Huh. I got a couple. The Michigan Outdoorsman said overrated. Tiny house movement is overrated. Buy a plot, plant that sucker, and call it done, says Big Works. Call it done. I come to think of it now I'm starting to think I have to watch some of these, and this is why the algorithm robot's like, hey, he likes these things.
Yes.
I'm just fascinated that, like, okay, people are like sleeping in the back of their Toyota Corolla, and they've been doing it for a year and a half, and how they just have little to no expense. And just like, I'm walking by cars now and be like, someone living in there? Like the people park on the out by on the back of Walmart in the middle of nowhere. It's like someone sleeping in there. I don't know.
And there's the one dude who camps in the weirdest places. He'll be like under a billboard sign or in the middle of a traffic circle if it's got brush. Yeah.
I watch those. I said I just don't watch any of those. And then I realized, oh crap, I've watched those.
Yep.
And they got me. It's when you watch them, you don't realize you're watching them. And that's when you're sunk. My goodness.
Oh yeah.
Overrated, underrated fishing podcasts, which is ironic because we're kind of on one, and you run one and I run one. However, in the grand scope of fishing podcasts,
I love the fact because so many of us spend so much time driving to places we have to fish, because I literally live in the black hole in Indiana where I'm not really close to anything. It's like an hour to 2 hours away for anywhere I fish. So if you don't,
you tell me all the time,
listening to like Sirius and your country station plays the same dang things over and over, then I'm like, time for Tackle Talk, time for, whoever. That's when I'll sit there and listen just because I want to hear something different and something related to what, I'm going to be doing. And, most of the time it's stuff I already know. But because it like reinforces what I think I know, it kind of gets it back into my head. It's like, I need to try that next time that, I'm out on the water too. So it's always interesting, but it's always cool to hear perspectives and thoughts from anglers of all different levels too, from your pros to guys like us who just like to go fish and share, what we love about being out on the water.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, I think it's really an underrated means of communication. It's still one of those things, although there's a lot of podcasts, there's still not a large following on them. I think it's really at the beginning of podcasting. Yeah. I think this is absolutely going to take off in years and years to come. What I love about it as a creator and as someone who hosts one is that YouTube is one of those things where you got to be brief, you got to be bright, you got to be done quick. You really can't have any fluff or people are going to bounce. Yep. And so you're really just high level. you go maybe a layer deep, but if you start going 3 or 4 layers deep, a lot of times you'll lose people. And that's why I believe a lot of people who come to the podcast, they want to peel back the onion. I just don't want to know the how. I just don't want the menu. Give me the ingredients, right?
Yeah.
I want to know how that works and why it works and what other people are doing, and where I can ask questions, where I can in real time communicate and get feedback on. And that's why I love podcasts, because it helps serve another demographic that do not get served through my videos and through my shorts. And I believe, my long form videos get a lot more, my shorts get a lot more. Podcasts, I keep doing it. And the reason I started this podcast is not for the views or any of that stuff. It's really because I just want to make friends with other people who love what I do and love kayak fishing. It's like, okay, for that alone is a win for me. And it just happens to kind of take off. We're at like 1,000 views on Spotify a show, which is a ton. So thank you all for making that happen. Let me hear what some of the thoughts over here are. We have a cooler lid, overrated due to the negative vibe lately. I'm interested in what you mean by that.
He's talking about the forward. Yeah, we're finally, I think, getting past the whole forward facing debate, but that's been a big, it's like you're on one side or the other, and I like to troll either side. So
kind of a riff.
It's kind of like politics. You can just throw a grenade in the room and walk out, and then let it go.
See you later. And we've talked about it on it. You got to talk about the stuff. But yeah, it's interesting.
But you throw a Haktua in there, and then everybody forgets all about
fine.
it.
Yeah. Give that about a week. We'll be tired of hearing about that, if not already.
Exactly.
Smoke 74 Fishing, underrated. Love this podcast. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Sly Fox agrees. Underrated. Bass Raft, underrated. Listen to them on the way to the lake. All right. Just like you. I love it.
Yep.
I'm glad I don't have to listen to it on the way to the lake, because all my lakes are basically in my backyard. I know I keep reminding you of that. So just let everyone know, if my alarm goes off, I could be fishing in 25 minutes. Like literally lines in. Kayak.
Yeah. Jeremy's like that now. He lives literally a mile from the lake that he's now moved next to fish. And same thing.
And it's not just one.
Don't get me wrong. This dude, when he remembers, I'll just get a random text here and there, and it's like, it's like, oh, what's Darren doing today? There's another 20.
Oh, so good. Digworks says underrated. Scott Hanneman, underrated. Good ideas learned. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where if you could pick up one or two things, it's a win. Call it a win. Especially if you've been doing this for a long time. It's not a lot new under the sun. And so if you can just pick up a few, or just reminders like, oh yeah. Michael S.
Sometimes it's that reminder of going back in the day. Somebody posted a picture of a jitterbug the other day.
Oh,
and I was like, ooh, trigger some memories right there.
Yeah. I was talking to someone in the bank at the lake I fished, and he was like, you know what? I caught 22 on a whopper popper yesterday. I was like, you know what? I need to go dig that out. And so that's what I'm going to be doing tomorrow morning at 4:30 a.m. Throwing the old whopper popper, because apparently they think they're delicious where I'm going. Team third place said underrated. So many of these podcasts have gold nuggets of information. Thank you, Michael S. Appreciate that. Keep on twisting that screw, don't I?
Oh yeah.
I feel bad because we have the mic and he has the comment section. He's totally at a disadvantage, but I love you guys. I really do. Bass Ackwards 13, great platform to absorb info and have fun with it too. 100%. And Ray Barksdale, absolutely thumbs up. Same here. I need some fishing buddies. Yeah. So, man, so good. So good.
If you need fishing buddies, get in the Fishing Freaks Facebook group, and you might find somebody local to you and have somebody go out and fish with.
I need to do a meetup. Have you done a meetup yet?
We're Freedom Squad's trying to plan something for sometime this year. It's just like, oh, how did we get into summer already? And then now what? But July, we do need to get like a Midwest, meetup and find a spot and get together and just get everybody together and go out and have a good time. You're not so far away from me that I can't come see you.
We're really not. Here's the thing I'm worried about meetup, and this is just my risk mitigation. Darren putting his hat on, and like when you invite people to do that, and if someone gets injured, are you liable, right? When you organize a meetup like that. And so I'm like, I don't know if I
Yeah.
want to. I don't know if I want to put myself.
I think it's
at,
one of those things, if you're not charging or whatever, it's just a, hey, we're going to be fishing here. You know,
I don't know. I
you want
don't
to
know the
join us, you can join
nuances or
us.
the laws around it because I want to do meetups, but I also don't want to be like that case study down the road. And it's
Yeah.
unlikely, but nonetheless, I don't know.
That's why a lot of the times, like if we're Freedom Squad's going to do something, we do it at like one of the, Knucklehead or championship or a tournament that's being run. Stuff like that too. So that there might be a little, yeah, we're definitely doing a Bassmaster Freedom. We're doing a Freedom Squad meetup at the Bassmaster Classic next spring for sure. So, we just get together. We may not, we just be at a big event that, draws a lot of people. But yeah, definitely going to the Classic next year because that's going to be awesome. Love the
I love it.
Classic. Love Red Crest. I love places where like all that stuff goes down, especially the Bassmaster now with having the kayak series, there. It's going to be really cool.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to go fish. I told you this earlier. I think I'm actually going to go fish my first ever Bassmaster kayak event at the end of next month up on the Susquehanna, trying to chase some smallmouth bass. I'd need a break from work, and I think that would be a good way to go do it.
I need a break from work, but my break is more like retirement. And so
Yeah, I feel you.
watch my YouTube videos so I can go full time. That's really where
Yeah.
I want to be.
I don't want to
And
go full time because when I go, I just want to go fish and then make videos as I go along.
Oh no, I would love to be a content creator full time. It's like what I
Yeah,
dream
a lot of
about.
people. I couldn't. I mean, dude, literally, there are very few people in this space doing what you're doing, working as hard as you are, not having an editor, being your own guy 100% across the board, managing all of this. You are killing it.
Do you
As
know
much as
this
I
one?
want to put in that much time and effort, there is no way.
I've had a couple comments this past week. One said, the one comment I remember, someone asked me a question. Like, bro, do you have a job? Or are you independently wealthy? And that was the question on YouTube.
Yeah.
I was like, no, I'm the national vice president of philanthropy at a nonprofit. I got a team of like 9 people that I oversee. It's a 9 to 5. Actually, it's more, as it's more like a 8 to 7. And I'm just up late, up early.
Yeah.
Just
See, people
cranking.
don't know this. I used to be a somewhat professional gamer. And so that
Okay.
was my after work until 2 a.m. every night, and then going and competing in computer tournaments, years ago before YouTube was like super whatever. And I missed like the when Twitch became a thing for gamers because I happened to move into an area to start the job that I'm in now, and we had
Yeah.
very little to no internet. So there was like that 6-month zone when I had like basically no internet when Twitch became a thing. And people who used to play for me became famous Twitch streamers playing games, and I missed just the worst timing of all. But I love what I do. I love my job. I love defending the networks from bad guys and being a cybersecurity guy, doing forensics investigations. That's just, that's my thing. But if I had a true passion, I did not want fishing to become work. I wanted to share what I love. I like capturing it on video and learning to edit and things like that. But if I tried to do what you do, I would be toast. I would be toast. So I love the fact that you and a lot of the younger guys out there are really putting in the work, the grind, the effort to continue to bring more people to this sport and share what we love. And kudos and hats off to you guys that can drink coffee, stay up late, and do what you got to do to make this happen. But I mean, it's really cool that we're teaching a whole new generation, some stuff that we love.
Yeah, 100%. I love that it's got lumped in with the young guys. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Tip my hat to you.
Yeah.
I don't feel like a young guy, but
Yeah.
no, it's good. So a couple things. If you haven't done it yet, please hit the like button. Help get this video get a little bit more, little more reach. Whether that's on if you're listening from Gramps side of the house or Wendell Fishing side of the house, please help us do that. Also, if you haven't, I never ask this, but if you're listening in the podcast, please just take a moment to rate this podcast. I'm hoping that if you made it to the end, you're engaged. It'll be a positive rating. But if it's not, it is what it is. So help me do that, especially on Apple. Helps us get a little bit more reach as well. And I'm excited.
Can I ask one favor of everybody out there as well?
What's that?
if you would go back and either watch on YouTube or find my podcast and listen to last night's live where I had Josh Ward from Blazer 88, which is he runs a Blazer 88 Foundation, is a veterans organization set up to help veterans in need. And that need could be anything from a service dog, medical care, just basic needs. And listen to the story of how that foundation was founded. And they actually donated the kayak that I'm going to use to put my motor on for our veteran boat because they knew this was a veterans cause.
Nice.
But if you would, and there, I set up a little fundraiser thing so you can donate on their site. But that's not what Josh was there for last night. Josh is looking for those who may know a veteran in need who needs help. And his biggest goal last night was if you know somebody that may have a need, be it financial, medical, mental, whatever, if their organization can help out, they are looking for people to be able to help. So if you would go back and check out blazer88.org and watch the live last night and get a little information and help them find more people to reach to help. That's the goal.
I love it. Gramps, thank you so much for your do. Everybody, thank you so much for listening in. And I'll see you in 2 weeks on the Kayak Fishing Obsessed live show. You guys have a good one. See ya.